The stars had always seemed peaceful to Doctor. She had spent 15 years studying them, dreaming about what might live among them. Now, standing on the observation deck of the science vessel Horizon's Edge, she finally had her answer, and it terrified her. The alien ship was massive. It hung in space like a metal mountain, blocking out the light from distant suns. Its surface was covered with strange symbols that glowed a sickly green color. Smaller ships surrounded it like fish swimming around a whale. "They're hailing us again," said the communications officer, his voice shaking. Took a deep breath, put it through. The screen flickered and she saw the alien for the first time. It was tall and thin, with gray skin that looked like wet stone. Its eyes were completely black, like two holes into nothing. When it spoke, its voice was cold and smooth, like ice sliding over glass. "I am ambassador of the Dominion. I speak for the Galactic Council. You will listen." Forced herself to stand straight. "I am Doctor. I represent the people of Earth. We are honored to—" "Silence," raised one long finger. "The Council does not seek your words. The Council seeks tribute. This is how it has been for 10,000 years. This is how it will always be." On the colony world of 442b, Admiral Park received the transmission 3 hours later. He sat in his command center, surrounded by screens showing military positions across human space. His face was hard and lined with age, but his eyes were sharp as knives. He watched the aliens' demands play out on the screen. 10,000 human specimens, complete access to Earth's military systems, rare minerals from every colony, and most importantly, total submission to the Galactic Council. "They want us to kneel," said Captain, who stood beside him. She was young, barely 30, but she had already commanded 3 successful defense missions against pirates. "They want us to become their slaves." "Yes," said quietly, "that is exactly what they want." "What do we do, Admiral?" Was silent for a long moment. He thought about his brother, who had died 10 years ago defending a colony from raiders. He thought about the millions of humans who had traveled to the stars looking for freedom. He thought about what his ancestors would say if they could see him now. "We smile," he said finally. "We bow our heads, we tell them what they want to hear." Stared at him, "Sir." "And while we are smiling and bowing, we prepare for war." Back on the horizon's edge, was doing her best to keep talking. Every minute she could buy was another minute for Earth's leaders to plan. "The Council is very powerful," she said carefully. "We are just a small species. We need time to gather what you ask for." Made a sound that might have been laughter. All species say this. All species beg for time. They said the same thing 8,000 years ago. Now we serve the Council faithfully. You will learn as we learned. "How long do we have?" 30 of your planetary rotations. 1 month in your primitive counting system. After that, the will come to collect. Felt her blood go cold. The hegemony, they are the Council's collectors. They have gathered tribute from 47 worlds. They are very efficient. Smiled, showing teeth that were too sharp to be friendly. Pray that you have everything ready when they arrive. They do not like to be disappointed. The transmission ended. Stood alone on the observation deck, watching the alien fleet. After a long moment, she opened a secure channel to Earth. "This is Doctor, priority message for the United Earth Council. We have made first contact. The news is not good." On Earth, the leaders gathered in secret. Presidents, generals, scientists, and advisors filled a room deep beneath the mountains of Korea. They listened to his report. They watched recordings of. They saw images of the massive alien fleet. "They have been doing this for 10,000 years, said General Lee, the head of Earth's military. 47 worlds have already fallen to them. Their technology is far beyond ours. "So we surrender?" asked one of the civilian leaders. "We give them what they want." "If we do, they will take our people as slaves," replied. "They will drain our resources. They will destroy everything we have built." "And if we fight?" Then they will try to destroy us anyway, but at least we will die standing up." The room was silent. Then slowly, Admiral's face appeared on the main screen. He was speaking from 442B, millions of kilometers away. "I have a suggestion," he said. Everyone turned to look at him. "We cannot beat them in a straight fight. Not yet. But we do not need to beat them. We just need to hurt them badly enough that they decide we are not worth the trouble." How asked. "We let them come. We let them take what they think they want. And then we show them what humans do to those who try to put chains on us." The plan took shape over the following weeks. On the surface, humanity appeared to be preparing tribute. Ships carried minerals to collection points. Scientists gathered data that looked important but was actually useless. And in the colonies, people waited and worried. But beneath the surface, something else was happening. Soldiers trained in secret. Engineers modified weapons. Families practiced evacuation drills. The message spread through whispers and coded signals. Do not trust the aliens. Do not give up hope. When the time comes, be ready. On the 20th day, they arrived. Their ships were uglier than the vessels. They looked like giant insects made of black metal, with sharp legs and glowing red eyes. The largest ship was called the Endless Hunger, and it carried 3,000 soldiers. Commander X stood on the bridge of the Endless Hunger, looking down at the human mining colony of Nu. He had done this 47 times before. He knew exactly how it would go. The humans would cry. They would beg. They would hand over their tribute, and he would take it all because that was his right. "Begin the harvest," he commanded. The fell toward the colony like black rain. Inside them, soldiers prepared their weapons and their chains. They expected fear. They expected surrender. They expected the same thing they had found on every other world. They had no idea what was waiting for them. And in the shadows of Nu, Sergeant gripped his weapon and waited. He had been a soldier for 20 years. He had fought pirates, rebels, and criminals, but he had never faced anything like this. He looked at the men and women around him. They were not an army. They were miners, engineers, teachers, and shopkeepers. But in their eyes, he saw something that made him proud. He saw fire. "Remember," he said quietly, "we are not prey. We are not slaves. We are human, and humans do not kneel." The first touched down, the doors opened, and the harvest began. But it would not end the way they expected. Not even close. The first thing Sergeant noticed about was the smell. It was sharp and bitter, like metal mixed with rotting fruit. The second thing he noticed was their size. They were tall, nearly 2.5 meters, with bodies covered in hard black shells. Their arms ended in claws that looked sharp enough to cut through steel, and their eyes, all 6 of them, glowed with a hungry red light. Commander X led the first wave personally. He enjoyed this part. He liked to see the fear in the eyes of new species. He liked to watch them realize that their lives were no longer their own. But something was wrong. The humans were not running. They were not screaming. They were standing in the streets of Nu, watching the soldiers with expressions that X did not recognize. "Spread out," he ordered his troops. "Begin collection, standard pattern." They moved through the colony like a dark wave. They grabbed humans and dragged them toward the... Some people went quietly. Others struggled and were beaten until they stopped. Watched from the window of a mining warehouse. His orders were clear. Do not fight. Do not give them a reason to destroy the colony. Let them take what they came for. It was the hardest order he had ever followed. Beside him, Engineer was working on something. She had taken apart 3 mining lasers and was combining their parts into a single device. Her hands moved quickly, but her face was calm. "What are you making?" asked. "Insurance," she said, "for later." Outside, a soldier grabbed a young woman and threw her to the ground. Her name was, and she worked in the colony's hospital. She had never hurt anyone in her life. "Please," she said, looking up at the alien. "Please, I will go with you. Just do not hurt me." The soldier laughed. At least, it made a sound that was probably laughter. Then it picked her up and threw her into a cage with 20 other humans. Councilman Minu stood in the center of the colony square, surrounded by guards. He was the administrator of New, responsible for 3,000 people. Now he was watching those people being loaded onto alien ships like cattle. "This is wrong," he said to the captain guarding him. "This is evil." The captain did not even look at him. "This is order. This is the way of things. You are weak. We are strong. The strong take from the weak. This is the only law that matters." "There are other laws," Minu said quietly. "Laws you have not learned yet." The captain finally looked at him. "Are you threatening us, little human?" "No," Minu said. "I am warning you." By midday, they had collected over 500 humans. They moved through the residential areas, breaking down doors and pulling families from their homes. Children cried. Parents begged. They ignored them all. In the mining sector, could not take it anymore. A soldier had grabbed a boy, maybe 10 years old. The boy's mother was screaming, trying to pull her son back. The soldier raised its claw to strike her. Moved without thinking. He picked up a mining pick that was leaning against the wall. He ran across the street. He swung. The pick went through the back of the skull. The alien fell forward, twitching. Green blood sprayed across the ground. For a moment everything was still. The mother stared at. The boy stared at. The other soldiers stared at. Then chaos exploded. 3 charged at him, ducked under the first one's claws and drove the pick into its chest. He pulled the weapon free and spun, catching the second soldier across the throat. The third one grabbed him from behind, lifting him off his feet. Head butted backward, cracking the alien's jaw. He dropped to the ground, rolled, and came up swinging. The pick found its mark again. 6 soldiers lay dead around him. Stood in the middle of them, breathing hard, covered in green blood. Then a pulse of energy hit him in the back. He fell forward, his body going numb. More shots followed, and he felt himself being dragged across the ground. The last thing he saw before he blacked out was Commander X standing over him. The alien's face showed an emotion that might have been surprise. "Interesting," X said. "Very interesting." Saw fall. She wanted to run to him, but she knew it would be suicide. Instead, she finished her work on the device, hid it in her jacket, and walked calmly outside. A soldier grabbed her immediately. She did not resist. She let herself be pushed toward the cages, her mind working on the next part of her plan. They loaded her onto with the others. She counted 847 humans in total. Among them, she recognized faces, miners she had worked with, families she had shared meals with, children she had watched play in the colony parks. And there, unconscious and bleeding, was. "Is he alive?" she asked Dr. Moon, who was kneeling beside the sergeant. Checked his pulse. "Yes, barely. They want him alive for some reason." "They want to study him," said a quiet voice. Turned. A young girl was sitting against the wall of the cage. She was maybe 14, with short black hair and eyes that seemed too old for her face. Her name was Song, and had seen her parents killed 2 hours ago. "Why do you say that?" asked. "He killed 6 of them with a stick." His voice was flat, emotionless. "They have never seen that before. They want to know how." They lifted off. Through the small window, watched New grow smaller and smaller. She thought about the people left behind, the ones who had not been taken. She hoped they were safe. Then she felt the ship dock with something much larger. The Endless Hunger, the main transport vessel. The doors opened, and soldiers herded them into the belly of the ship. The corridors were dark and smelled like death. Strange sounds echoed from distant chambers, sounds that tried not to think about. They were divided into groups, workers in one section, educated people in another. Children were separated from their parents. The screaming was terrible. But through it all kept her eyes open. She memorized the layout of the corridors. She counted the soldiers. She noted the positions of doors and control panels. And before the ship jumped into hyperspace, she did something that might save them all. She found a maintenance terminal. It was old and forgotten, hidden behind a broken panel. They had not used it in years, but was an engineer, and engineers knew how to wake up sleeping machines. She worked quickly, her fingers flying over the strange alien controls. She could not read the language, but she understood systems. All machines worked on the same basic principles. After 3 minutes, she found what she was looking for: the ship's communication array. She typed in a message, using emergency codes that every human ship would recognize. "This is engineer captured aboard vessel Endless Hunger. 847 human prisoners. Ship heading toward Council space. Trajectory data attached. Please advise." She hit send. The message flew out into space, a tiny signal among billions of stars. Then she erased all traces of what she had done and returned to her cell before anyone noticed she was gone. The Endless Hunger jumped into hyperspace. Around, people were crying, praying, and holding each other. They thought this was the end. They thought they were already dead. But knew better. She looked at who was starting to wake up. She looked at Doctor, who was quietly studying the guards. She looked at Young, who was watching everything with those cold, sharp eyes. They were not dead. They were not broken. They were learning. And in 6 days, when they reached Council space, they would have learned enough. The thought they had captured 847 helpless prisoners. They were wrong. They had captured 847 humans. And humans were very, very different from anything the galaxy had ever seen before. The cells on the Endless Hunger were not designed for humans. They were designed for a species called the peaceful plant eaters who had surrendered to the Council 800 years ago. The energy barriers that kept them trapped were just strong enough to hold creatures that had no desire to fight. They had made a terrible mistake. On the first day, woke up in a medical bay. His body ached. His head felt like it was full of broken glass. But he was alive, and that meant he could still fight. A scientist was standing over him, studying him with those 6 red eyes. It held a device that beeped and flashed, scanning his body. "Remarkable," the scientist said. It spoke in broken human language, translated through a small machine on its chest. "Your muscle density is impressive. Your bone structure is surprisingly strong, and your brain chemistry shows elevated aggression responses." "Where am I?" asked. "You are on the Endless Hunger. You are our property now." The scientist made that horrible laughing sound. "You killed 6 of our warriors with a primitive tool. Commander X is very interested in you. He wants to know if all humans are like you." Looked the scientist directly in its middle eyes. "We are all like me," he said. "Some of us are worse." The scientist stopped laughing. They threw into a cell with 30 other humans. The energy barrier hummed with a soft blue light. Beyond it, guards walked past every few minutes, barely paying attention to the prisoners. Inside the cell, found Doctor and Young. They were sitting in the corner talking in whispers. "You are awake," said. "Good, we have work to do." "Work?" "We have 6 days before we reach Council space. 6 days to figure out how to take this ship." Looked at her like she was crazy. "There are 3,000 soldiers on this ship. We have nothing. No weapons, no armor, no plan." "Then we will find weapons," said. "We will make armor, and I already have a plan." She explained what she had done before the jump, the message she had sent, the trajectory data she had included. If the human fleet received her signal, they would know exactly where the Endless Hunger was going. "But they cannot reach us in time," said. "Even at maximum speed, our ships would take weeks to get to Council space." "They do not need to reach us," said. "They just need to be waiting for us when we arrive." Over the next 2 days, the prisoners organized themselves in secret. used his military training to identify other soldiers and fighters among the captives. There were not many, maybe 50 people who had any combat experience, but there were hundreds of others who were willing to learn. Doctor had a different mission. He spent his time watching the guards, studying how they moved, how they breathed, how they reacted to different situations. He pretended to be helpful, offering medical assistance to other prisoners, so they would let him move between cells. They have a weakness, he told on the third night. At the base of their skull, where the head meets the body, there is a cluster of nerves. If you hit it hard enough, the whole body shuts down. Instant paralysis. How did you find this out? Smiled grimly. One of the guards fell asleep near my cell. I watched him for 3 hours. I saw how his body twitched when he dreamed. I saw which parts moved and which parts stayed still. Then I remembered my anatomy training and made some educated guesses. Guesses? I tested it on a dead they were carrying to disposal. The nerve cluster was exactly where I expected. Stared at him. You tested it on a corpse. I am a doctor. Dead bodies do not scare me. What scares me is failing the living. Meanwhile, was making friends in dangerous places. The endless hunger used automated maintenance drones to clean the corridors and fix broken systems. They were simple machines, not smart enough to recognize threats, and was very good at talking to machines. She started small, a wave here, a smile there. She pretended to be fascinated by the drones, asking questions that the guards found amusing. The human wants to play with toys, they laughed. Let her, it will keep her quiet. On the 4th day, one of the drones let her look at its internal systems. She pretended to be confused by the alien technology, but her mind was racing. She memorized everything: power systems, communication networks, door controls, life support. Can you shut down the cell barriers? Asked that night. Not yet, but I can overload them. If I route enough power through the maintenance network, the barriers will burn out. They will not be able to repair them quickly. How long will we have? Maybe 10 minutes before they restore backup power. That is not much time. Looked at him with hard eyes. Then we had better move fast. Young had her own role to play. She was small, smaller than any adult, and she had a gift that the others did not. She could fit through the ventilation shafts. On the 5th day, she started exploring. She moved through the ship like a ghost, mapping corridors that no prisoner was supposed to see. She found the armory, heavily guarded. She found the bridge, sealed behind massive doors. She found the communication room where officers sent messages to the council. And she found something else, something that changed everything. There was a room near the center of the ship, hidden behind ordinary-looking walls. Inside were hundreds of small containers, each one holding a frozen larva, the next generation of soldiers waiting to be born. Reported back to, they care about those containers. I saw guards checking them every hour. The temperature must stay perfect or the larvae die. Understood immediately. Hostages. No, said, leverage. On the night before they reached council space, gathered the leaders of each cell. They met in the darkest corner of the prison section, speaking in voices so low that the guards could not hear. Tomorrow we will be handed over to the council, he said. Some of us will become slaves. Some of us will become experiments. Some of us will simply disappear. That is what they expect. That is not what will happen. He explained the plan. Would disable the barriers at exactly midnight ship time. Doctor had taught everyone the weak point, passing the knowledge through the cells using coded taps on the walls. Would move through the vents, opening doors and cutting communications. We have no weapons, someone said. We have hands, replied. We have teeth. We have the will to survive, and we have something else that they do not understand. What? We have each other. They captured us as individuals, but we are not individuals anymore. We are a colony. We are a family. We are human. He looked around at the faces in the darkness. Miners, teachers, parents, children. None of them were soldiers, all of them were afraid. But beneath the fear, he saw something else. He saw the same fire he had seen in New, the same refusal to give up, the same stubborn, impossible hope. "Tomorrow we take this ship," he said. "Tomorrow we go home, or tomorrow we die trying. Either way, we do not kneel, we do not beg, we do not surrender. We are human beings, and we will show the galaxy what that means." Somewhere in the darkness, a woman started to hum. It was an old song, a lullaby that Korean mothers had sung to their children for centuries. Other voices joined in, one by one, until the entire prison section was filled with soft, defiant music. The guards heard it. They looked at each other in confusion. What were the humans doing? Why were they singing? They did not understand. They would never understand. But in 12 hours they would learn. Midnight came quietly on the endless hunger. Commander X was on the bridge reviewing reports from the collection. 847 humans, all healthy, all ready for distribution. The council would be pleased. This had been one of the smoothest harvests in his 200 years of service. He did not notice when the lights flickered. In the prison section was working. Her fingers moved across the maintenance terminal she had found hidden in a wall panel. They had forgotten about these old systems, left over from when the ship was first built. They had been a mistake then. They were a bigger mistake now. 3 minutes, she whispered. Pass the word along. Cell by cell the message traveled. 3 minutes, be ready. Remember the weak point. Fight like your life depends on it, because it does. In the ventilation shaft above the guard station, waited. She was holding a piece of broken metal that she had found in the ship's waste disposal area. It was not much of a weapon, but did not need much. 2 minutes. Doctor was leading a group of prisoners in what looked like a prayer circle. The guards watched with amusement. Let the humans pray to their imaginary gods. It would not save them. But they were not praying. They were reviewing the attack pattern one final time. Each person knew their target. Each person knew exactly where to strike. 1 minute. Type the final command. Every system she had accessed over the past 5 days was now connected. Power grid, door controls, communication array, all of it linked together in a way they had never imagined. Now, she said. She pressed enter. The lights went out, the energy barriers died, and 847 humans exploded into action. Was the first through. He launched himself at the nearest guard, driving his fist into the soft spot at the base of the alien skull. The collapsed, its body going completely limp. Behind him, 50 other fighters followed. They had no weapons except broken furniture, pieces of their food containers, and their own bare hands. It did not matter. They knew where to hit. They knew how to kill. The guards never stood a chance. In the first 30 seconds, the humans killed 40 soldiers. They took their weapons, strange energy rifles that were heavy and awkward but deadly effective. Within a minute, they had armed themselves with enough firepower to take on a small army. Split his forces into 3 groups. Take your people to the medical bay. Head for engineering. I will go for the bridge. What about the larvae room? Asked. Has that? Above them was already moving. She crawled through the ventilation system like water flowing through pipes, fast and silent. She reached the larvae room in 4 minutes and dropped down through a ceiling panel. 2 guards were inside. They looked at her with confusion. A child. What was a child doing here? Did not give them time to wonder. She threw her piece of metal at the first guard's face, blinding it for just a moment. Then she was on the second guard, climbing its body like a tree. Her small hands found the nerve cluster. She pressed with all her strength. The guard fell, landed on her feet, grabbed a weapon from its belt, and shot the first guard before it could recover. Then she walked to the temperature controls for the larvae containers. She studied them for a moment. Then she turned them off. Insurance, she whispered, remembering what had called her modified laser. On the bridge, Commander X finally realized something was wrong. His communication system was dead. His guards were not responding, and the screams he heard echoing through the corridors did not sound like human screams. They sounded like screams. "Seal the bridge," he ordered. "Full lockdown, send distress signals to the fleet." "Communications are offline, Commander," an officer reported, panic in its voice. "All systems are being controlled from engineering." X felt something he had not felt in 200 years. He felt afraid. And his team fought their way through corridor after corridor. They were better trained, better armed, and physically stronger, but they had never faced an enemy like this before. Humans did not fight like other species. They did not follow predictable patterns. They did not stop when they were hurt. They did not retreat when outnumbered. They adapted, improvised, and kept coming no matter what. A soldier knocked to the ground and raised its claw to finish him, grabbed a piece of broken glass and drove it into the alien's eye. When the soldier stumbled back, a woman named, who had been a school teacher 3 days ago, hit it from behind with an energy rifle. "Thanks," said, climbing to his feet. "Thank me later," replied. "We have a bridge to take." In engineering, had taken complete control of the ship. She stood at the main console, her fingers dancing across controls she had memorized through stolen glances and educated guesses. "Life support is secured," she reported over a captured communication device. "Engines are locked. They cannot run and they cannot hide." "What about the atmospheric venting system?" asked. "Can they flush us into space?" "I disabled it on day 2. They will not even think of it until it is too late." Doctor's team had reached the medical bay. Inside, they found not just medical supplies but information. They kept detailed records of every species they had captured, weaknesses, strengths, control methods. Downloaded everything. Then he started treating the wounded. Even in the middle of a battle, he would not forget his oath as a doctor. 4 hours after the uprising began, reached the bridge doors. Behind him stood 40 humans, armed with captured weapons and covered in green blood. They looked like demons. They felt like demons. "Open the doors," said into his communicator. In engineering, smiled and typed a command. The bridge doors slid open. Inside, Commander X and 30 of his officers stood with weapons raised. "Stop," X commanded. "You have done the impossible, I acknowledge this, but you cannot win. Surrender now and I will spare some of your lives." Stepped forward, his face was calm, his eyes were not. "You came to our worlds," he said. "You stole our people, you put us in cages like animals. You thought we were weak, you thought we would break." He raised his weapon. "We are not weak, we do not break, and we do not surrender." The battle for the bridge lasted 7 minutes. When it was over, every officer was dead except X. He stood alone in the center of the room, surrounded by human weapons. "You are prey," he said, his voice shaking. "You are supposed to be prey." "Prey does not negotiate," said, echoing words that X had spoken to his officers many times. "I know, I heard you say it." He stepped closer. X raised his claws. "If you surrender," offered, "I will make it quick." X laughed his horrible laugh. "Do not surrender." "Neither do humans." Moved faster than any species had a right to move. His hands found the nerve cluster at the base of X's skull, but he did not just press, he twisted. Commander X, who had harvested 47 worlds, who had never lost a single captive to rebellion, fell to the ground with his neck broken. Stood over him for a long moment, then he turned to face his people. "The ship is ours." A cheer rose up, echoing through the corridors of the endless hunger. Humans were crying, laughing, and holding each other. They had done the impossible. They had won. But the cost had been terrible. Of the 847 people who had been captured at New, only 644 remained alive. 203 had died in the fighting, including 12 children who had been caught in crossfire. Found standing outside the larvae room. Inside, all the containers were dark and cold. "They are all dead," said. "The next generation of soldiers, gone." Put his hand on her shoulder. "Do you regret it?" Looked up at him, her eyes were dry, her voice was steady. "They killed my parents. They tried to make us slaves. I do not regret anything." His voice came over the communicator. "We are approaching Council space. Our fleet is waiting for us at the edge of the system. Admiral is requesting communication." Walked to the bridge. Through the window he could see stars, and among those stars he could see the lights of human ships. They had come. They had actually come. "Put him through," said. Admiral's face appeared on the screen. The old man looked tired but proud. "Sergeant, I see you have been busy." "We have a message for the Council, sir." Smiled. "So do we. Prepare your cargo. Tomorrow we deliver humanity's tribute." The endless hunger turned toward the Council. In its cargo bay, the humans worked through the night, preparing their message. They arranged the heads of 2,847 soldiers in neat rows, including the broken skull of Commander X. The Galactic Council had demanded tribute. Humanity was about to deliver. The Galactic Council chamber was the oldest building in the known universe. It had stood for 10,000 years, witnessing the rise and fall of empires, the birth and death of species, the endless cycle of power and submission that governed all life among the stars. 12 elder species sat in their designated places, arranged in a circle around a central platform. And 9 others whose names humans had never learned. They had gathered for what they expected to be a simple ceremony, the acceptance of a new tribute species into their system. Ambassador stood at the center of the platform. He was smiling, if that expression could be called a smile. In a few moments, they would deliver the human specimens. The Council would inspect them, approve them, and assign them to their various fates, and life would continue as it always had. Then the emergency signal started. "What is happening?" demanded the High Speaker, an ancient creature from a species so old that its name had been forgotten even by itself. "A ship is approaching, High Speaker," an attendant reported. "It is the Endless Hunger, but the transponder codes are wrong, and there are other ships with it, human ships." The Council chamber fell silent. Human ships, in Council space. That was impossible. Humans did not have the technology to travel this far this quickly, and even if they did, why would they come? "Put the ship on screen," ordered. The image appeared above the central platform. The Endless Hunger hung in space, its black hull familiar to everyone present. But beside it flew 20 human warships, their weapons active, their shields raised. And the Endless Hunger's cargo bay doors were opening. "They would not dare," the representative hissed. But they dared. Admiral Park's face appeared on every screen in the Council chamber. He was standing on the bridge of his flagship, wearing his dress uniform, his medals shining in the light. His face was calm and cold, like a man who had already made peace with whatever came next. "Members of the Galactic Council," he said, "my name is Admiral Park of the United Earth Defense Fleet. 30 days ago, you sent your collectors to our worlds. You demanded tribute. You took our people." He paused. The silence in the chamber was absolute. "We have come to deliver our response." The cargo bay doors of the Endless Hunger finished opening. Inside, arranged in perfect rows, were the heads of 2,847 soldiers. They filled the cargo bay from wall to wall, their dead eyes staring out into space, their mouths frozen in expressions of shock and terror. At the front of the display, mounted on a metal pole, was the head of Commander X. And standing beside it, alive and unbroken, were 644 human survivors. The Council erupted into chaos. Representatives were shouting, screaming, demanding answers. The delegation was on its feet, making threats that echoed off the ancient walls. Guards rushed toward the exits, uncertain of what to do. Only the High Speaker remained calm. It raised one withered hand, and slowly the chamber fell quiet. "This is unprecedented," the High Speaker said. Its voice was like dry leaves rustling in wind. "In 10,000 years, no tribute species has ever responded in such a way." "Then perhaps it is time for a new precedent," replied. On the endless hunger stood at the front of the survivors. He was still wearing the torn clothes from new, still covered in faded green bloodstains. He looked like what he was, a man who had walked through hell and come out the other side. Beside him stood, who had taken an alien ship apart with nothing but her mind. Doctor, who had turned fear into knowledge and knowledge into victory. Young, who had stopped being a child the day they killed her parents. They were not soldiers anymore. They were not prisoners. They were something new, something the galaxy had never seen. They were survivors. "You asked for specimens," continued. "Here are your specimens. 2,847 soldiers who thought they could take what was not theirs. You asked for our submission. Here is our submission." He leaned forward, his eyes burning with cold fire. "We do not submit. We do not bow. We do not kneel. Send more collectors if you wish. We will return them the same way." The representative stood. Its gray face was unreadable, but its voice carried a hint of something that might have been respect. "You have committed an act of war against the Council," it said. "You have killed soldiers of the hegemony. You have violated the laws that have governed this galaxy for." "Your laws," said his voice carrying through the broadcast. "Not ours. We never agreed to your laws. We never signed your treaties. We never bowed to your council. You came to us with chains. We answered with steel. And if we destroy your species in response," smiled, it was not a pleasant smile, "then you will destroy us, but you will not do it easily, and you will not do it without cost. Every ship you send, we will fight. Every soldier you land, we will kill. Every world you try to take, we will burn before we let you have it." He gestured at the heads behind him. Commander X had 200 years of experience, 3,000 soldiers under his command, the most advanced weapons in the galaxy, and we beat him with broken furniture and bare hands. Imagine what we will do when we are ready. The council was silent. For the first time in 10,000 years, the elder species had nothing to say. Doctor stepped forward on the endless hunger. She had come aboard from fleet just hours ago, ready to play her part in humanity's message. "We do not want war," she said. "We never wanted war. We came to the stars looking for friends, for knowledge, for a place among the wonders of the universe. You could have welcomed us. You could have treated us with respect. Instead, you tried to put us in chains." She looked directly at the cameras, at the billions of beings watching across the galaxy. "This is who we are. We are human beings. We are small and we are young, and we do not understand half of what we see when we look at the stars. But we do not give up. We do not stop fighting. And we do not surrender what we love to those who would take it from us." The High Speaker leaned forward. "And what do you want, human? Revenge, conquest, power?" "We want to be left alone," said. "We want to live our lives in peace. We want to raise our children and build our homes and dream our dreams without fear. That is all we have ever wanted. And if we do not leave you alone," his eyes went hard, "then we will make you regret it, as we have just demonstrated." The voting began immediately. 3 species, led by the voted for immediate extermination of the human species. 4 species, led by the voted to open diplomatic relations. 5 species abstained, unable to decide. No decision was made. For the first time the council was divided. Outside the chamber, the human fleet waited in formation. They were outnumbered 100 to 1. They were by technology they barely understood. If the council chose war, they would not survive the day. But they did not run. They did not hide. They waited, proud and defiant, ready to face whatever came next. On the endless hunger, watched the council chamber through a small screen. She did not understand most of what was being said. She did not care about politics or diplomacy or the balance of power in the galaxy. She only knew one thing. Her parents were dead, killed by creatures who thought they had the right to take whatever they wanted. And she had helped kill those creatures. She had watched their empire crack and their confidence crumble. It was not enough. It would never be enough, but it was a start. Was already working on plans for the future. She had downloaded the entire technical database of the endless hunger. She had studied weapons, engines, shields. She understood them now, and she knew how to improve them. "We cannot beat them with what we have," she told quietly. "But give me 5 years. Give me resources and engineers and time, and I will build something that can." "You will have it," promised, "whatever you need." Doctor was tending to the wounded, as always, but his mind was elsewhere. He was thinking about what he had learned from the database. 47 species had been conquered by the Council. 47 worlds had submitted to tribute. But not all of them were happy about it. Some of them remembered freedom. Some of them might be willing to fight for it again if they had hope. If they had allies. "We are not alone," he said to himself. "We cannot be alone." Admiral ended his broadcast with final words that would echo across the galaxy for centuries to come. The Galactic Council demanded tribute. "Humanity has delivered. We have given you the heads of our captors. We have given you a warning. We have given you a choice. Accept us as equals or learn what we do to those who try to enslave us." He paused, letting the words sink in. "We did not come to this galaxy to kneel. We came to stand. And we will stand together forever until the last human heart stops beating and the last human voice falls silent. This is our promise. This is our oath. This is who we are." The broadcast ended. The human fleet turned and began the long journey home. Behind them, the Galactic Council argued and debated and threatened. Ahead of them, an uncertain future waited, full of danger and war and possibility. But the humans did not look back. They had delivered their message. They had made their choice, and whatever came next, they would face it together. As humans always had. As humans always would.